This episode of Cure the Causes is brought to you by Natural Barrier Support. Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Christina Rahm, and I am with a dear friend of mine who is one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my life, Gabriele. And every time I say his name, he doesn't know this, I think Gabriele like the angel.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
but you haven't always been an angel.
well,
Wait, I know stories about you. Remember, I met your friend from college.
I don't know what you're talking about.
He was like, Gabriele was a lot of fun in college.
Well, I to support my
What
studies.
does that mean?
Well, let me
'Cause I
be
do know a
very,
little bit more.
diplomatic about it. To support my studies, I had to work, and I worked as an actor, and that brought me to Hollywood. And I spent 7 years there and made a lot of friends and had a lot of fun. Hollywood was a really great place back then.
Yeah.
And
Joy lived in Hollywood.
Yeah. So
She was having fun too.
yeah, I bet.
But really, LA's fun.
And also was a kind of different time where movies were really the center. There was no internet back then. There was not all this craziness about the mobile continent. So it was different. We used to. The first time I went to Cannes, I think I was 17 or 18. And everybody was there, for the whole duration of the 2 weeks of the festival.
Yeah.
And it was the only moment where you really get to see the films and get to see the people. So it's kind of the same hype that we have now in evolutionary biohacking and in the work we're doing and the summits we're putting together.
Yeah.
Because, you cannot transfer the kind of informations we're sharing during the summits, in through the internet. I mean,
No, you can't.
There's
Yeah.
so much information. There's also such a good energy to come together in wonderful places like we're doing. So.
Yeah, like we're doing here, and we're continuing to do that. And I really want, because we are growing every day on our social media platforms with what we're doing, because our company, like what we're doing together, we're all over the world, right?
Yeah.
So it's different. People ask, if you're just in the United States, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But when you travel, you attract different kinds of people, different environments, and you and I are really uniting to do a lot of things together. So I really want to talk about the Science Pontifical Academy and the World Changer Summit, what you've developed, as well as Transcend, and what we're both dedicated to. Because of the nature of what you do, and because of me as well, and the different things we will do together, I think sometimes both of us are cryptic, because there's things like when you write patents or you do certain projects, you have to be careful who you let into that project, because you have to protect it. And I'm honored to be in these projects, but I do want you to say and tell our audience what you're doing with Transcend. I would love the Rahm Foundation to be involved so we can help in any way, what you're doing with all of the scientific committees. And finally, I'd like to end with what we're planning on doing with the universities and stuff together.
Okay, well, that's a lot of talking.
You're going to be here for hours.
But let's start saying that when you first came on board of the World Changers, I didn't know much about you, but I was so taken by your energy and your positivity. And sometimes it's really hard to explain everything, but because it evolves, the energy just keeps, and bouncing from one place to the other, and we're caught up in doing things more than talking about things.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
since we met, a few years back at the Pontifical Academy of Science, so many things have changed. I mean, you came to the board of the new platform on the World Changer Summit, and it just happened, It's happening as we're talking.
Yes.
There are so many great people coming together, and so it's really, it's sometimes it's not even about being cryptic. It's really more about having the time to share the information.
Yeah.
and to be able to be here. This is a great moment. Thank you for having me. And
We're so glad you're here.
Well, I was so happy when you said to me, I'm doing this event, and I said, I want to be there. I want to, to be part of it, because just the energy this is what I wanted to really share with the people, and all the work we're doing, and all the energy that there is, and all the people that are coming together is just amazing.
It's
fantastic.
amazing, because you bring in, so the world is energy, right? And you bring the right energy together. I had a good friend of mine text me the other night, Joy knows her, that asked me if they use human beings as energy. And I said, well, the energy from human beings is more important than almost anything. I mean, except for, of course, God and the different, He's the source, of everything. But it has changed and it is growing, because going into like trying to make the world a better place, and I keep saying this to everyone, you can't change everybody, because some people don't want to be changed. But no, understanding that we have to make some changes in our food and our water, and in like your hip malaria project.
Oh my God!
And people,
our hip malaria
our
project.
hip malaria project. And here's something I have to say to people. Someone said to me yesterday, but do people still get malaria? And
Oh my God! 600,000
like,
people died last year.
I know, but I think when you live in certain places, you and I have traveled all over, right?
Yeah.
And of course, our answer is yes. Like, I can tell you this, I'm being completely candid with you. I've worked with all those universities, over a lot of universities connected in Africa, South Africa, that I, for years, because my ex-husband was a football player and I helped with people that were from there developing programs. And Karen, actually, her father led a program where they brought in scientists and engineers to train in South Carolina to develop them to work in our country. Because we know philosophers, scientists, humanitarians have really led our world throughout history. But there's so many things that have changed because of the dynamic of all of us working together, and because you and I have experienced the pain. Me in Africa, the other day, a good guy, Dr. Rudolph, that I work with, he and his wife got malaria. And I want to tell you something. When you get typhoid fever or malaria, it's really hard, and you may not recover.
Yeah, and it's another thing that I wanted to point out, that many times we do have the cure, we do have the assets to intervene, but also it takes so much energy, takes so much time to just be everywhere and help everyone, and trying really to make a difference. And sometimes some of the discoveries, like hit malaria, is a device that has been there for almost 2 years now, and it works with holographic information transfer. So basically, what you do, you put a little device on your wrist and a little patch on your skin where your liver is, and then for difference of energy that will activate and electromagnetically will selectively hit the plasmodium parasite, and then you will oxidize it.
Right.
So
it's no
the
longer
technology
there.
is there, is already a medical device, and it's just so hard now to penetrate the market and to give it away. Even we give away the technology for free, just as a humanitarian cause, and you help to do that. Yeah. So we're very grateful. And you've been recognized also by some royal houses for what you've been doing, and I was grateful to be there. And
you were a major part of that.
You what you did. I mean, what you did, and your example, set those royal houses to say, hey, she's a great actor, and we want. They were, they told me they were honored to have you and to be representing, innovation and all this good that we're doing around the world. But it is, what I'm trying to say here is we have the technology, we have the knowledge. I mean, you're doing some, incredible products. We talked about fertility, in Davos, and the way your product can help women to regain fertility and the difference that it makes, into people's life.
But I'm glad what you said. I want to stop. I want to say this because what you said was so important. So sometimes the cure is there, right? Or the way to heal something is there. But even if you give it away, people don't want to accept it, right? Or people don't want to understand that there's a solution. I completely understand the technology of hip malaria. I completely understand how it works and what it's doing. And you're basically getting rid of that parasite, right? So that it's no longer there because you're oxidating it. And that's very simple. But I will say this too, Gabriel, because I feel like I'm a scientist, but I'm a humanitarian. And me speaking to people to get to them so they understand, I do feel like God gave me, one of those. That's one of the things I'm able to do. And so one of the things I've been working on is how do I explain this to people so they understand? Because if you talk to a typical individual, even an educated individual, when you say what the technology does, they don't always understand. So here is how I've started discussing it. I've started discussing it, you know, how you have these machines and the flies come in and it zaps the fly, right? Or the mosquito and it's dead. That's kind of what this does. It's getting rid of it in the body, and it's using different energy levels and technology that it has. As scientists, with what I've studied, I of course understand that, but I would say the majority of people don't. And I'm going to say I've spoken on a lot of panels where you're there, and you're the reason I was even up there. And one of the things I've noticed that I want to somehow talk, I don't want to ever upset people, but I want to talk to people because if they can say it a little bit differently, you know, as scientists, we love using our big words and our technology, but our goal with this Hit Malaria project is to help people, to get people to understand we have something that can change malaria and change how it's processing it. We've got to talk to them in a way that they'll understand, because 99% of your population, even if it's a president or a prime minister, isn't. So you have to kind of go to them with this is what it's doing.
It's, you know, it's exactly what you're saying. And the funny thing is, a few weeks ago, we I don't want to say the state or the embassy, but we went to this embassy, and we were received with the usual, you know, the very gracious and very welcoming. It's a, you know, an African country, but they were very skeptical. And then one of the main guy in their country got, you know, malaria, and his, you know, his protege, his, you know, this young politician got malaria, and we said, well, why don't we send them, you know, the bracelet for free? And they were like, oh yeah, sure, we'll do that. And then they did, and the guy, after 5 days, it was completely free of malaria.
Wow.
So then they rushed to say, how did you do it? And I said, well, we explained it to you, and it was there. But if we do things, it will just show them, you know. But it's just so hard sometimes to go through the bureaucracy, through that, you know, that barrier that you were talking about, where, you know, maybe we talk in a way where it's hard for us sometimes to get through and to make people understand.
Because we understand, but the thing is, then we forget, and this happens to me all the time. I know what I know, right? So I don't understand that other people don't know that. But I think it just hit me when you were saying this. We need to offer to you guys for free the ability to put that in the patient registry, or for us to do case studies for IASS and to put it in the journal so that we can release that. I don't put everything I do in IASS. I do the patient registry and case studies with Root, for example, and other things.
This is already a medical device. You know, in Europe,
it's
already registered. Yeah, we have already, you know, we have probably 150 cases now, 100%
But from a marketing
success.
perspective. So one of the things I learned from pharmaceutical and biotech, because I worked for all those companies, right?
I know.
Is there's the clinical research and approval side.
Yeah.
And then there's the medical clinical marketing side that's really almost as important as the research side, because
So true.
you may not know this about me, but I want to tell you this. I was in, you know, marketing and sales and business in the pharmaceutical side. They moved me to the science side, and I did it begrudgingly. Like, I was like, is there an option here? And they offered a lot more money and a lot of different things. They needed a scientist that understood sales and marketing, that could go in to speak to patients and doctors about new biotechnology. And so that was what I was trained to do. So I would go all over, and I was on stage and work with different groups on how do we position this, because a lot of scientists, we call it counter-selling, would go into an environment where we had a product that could help so many people, but at that dinner or at that meeting, people just got lost and didn't even want to talk about it anymore. So you really needed and so I use patient registries to track, not to get an FDA approval, but so that we can write up things for journals, and then the marketing is there. And I learned that from the pharmaceutical and biotech industry. So when you launch a drug in Europe or the United States, they have these 7-year post-marketing patient registries that they mandate, right? But what people don't know is we also use that so that we can get that technology and information out there so that people understand the safety, the efficacy, and cases of what's happening. And that's why I think it's so important, because I even say this all the time, without this group, what I invented as a scientist may not have gone anywhere. But yet now we're in 80 countries, and the ability to scientifically and economically impact is because of the marketing side. If we didn't I don't want to say dumb it down, if we didn't put it in simple terms, then no one would understand it. And I learned that, like I said, through years of being trained.
Yeah, and it's also, it's so important. What you're doing really is enabling, because I want to remember everyone and your audience that we are a nonprofit, foundation. So the Institute for Advanced Studies and Cooperation is working basically on donation, and they're all private donations. So it's sometimes for us we don't have the mind of a big pharma, because we are just used to do research, and we are not used to see the business side of things. But
right, because it's a small. I mean, I want the public to know this. 99% of all of the cutting edge technology that's developed originates like what you're doing.
Right.
And you have to have private funders, you have to have, or people give to a nonprofit to support it. And that's even in any area like HIV or Hep C. And then it goes on later, to go into different companies, or that company expands to make it better. But I love the way you've positioned this with trying to help people all over the world, but from a nonprofit status. And that's why I really want to help more.
Well, you are helping a lot, and that the proof of all we're doing is is the interest we're getting also from international universities. And I was so proud when they asked me, can Dr. Rahm come and give a lectura magistratis?
I said I would do it if you went to Gabriele.
But it was just very rewarding for what we do to see somebody like yourself being requested around the world and have this feeling of I mean, you don't need us, but through us, maybe you got a bigger opportunity also to meet more scientists and to be of help with more people. And this is just simply the best part of my work is when I see people succeeding and being able to share and make a difference in the world.
Well, thank you, but I do need you, because I think we need each other, because I think the ability to change lives or to impact the world in this way, especially as it pertains to health and innovation and even legacy. I want to use that because I love the Transcend Project, which I do want to talk about.
Thank you.
You have to partner with people, Gabriele. You can't do it. It's too big of a mission to do on its own. And that Hip Malaria Project, what I was so fascinated about, and I don't know if you know this, is the other ways outside of that we can impact people because of the quantum technology that's being used.
Oh my God! We're doing a project now of research on water, and just in farming and hydroponics. There's so much we can do so much.
Yeah.
It's just amazing, and we're just at the beginning of all this research. It's been 18 years in the work, but nowadays we really have some amazing studies on and the technology is being used in hospitals, on kids and all over, and there is so much we can do. And looking at your product and what you're doing, it's like wow, if we keep proceeding the way we are and teaming up on different projects, I think it'll be just amazing what we can do. I mean,
I do too. I tell people this all the time because I worked on so many HIV and Hep C, and Dr. Todd did too. Yeah. It's so interesting. I don't know if you caught what happened last time I saw him. I kept thinking, how do I know him? And I had met him through Kimberly and Foster Gamble, and I saw him on a big screen because in their family room, I was staying with them for a week, and it was on the big screen. And I was kind of fascinated by all of it at their house because they had a library. Because if you look at their heritage with like the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, the Proctor family, the Gamble family, they're really the pillars of the United States. and Europe and what's been built. They really are. And so they had the library from their families that had been handled down. And Foster was a PhD quantum physicist from Harvard. And Kimberly was a famous, newscaster, and her whole family was famous in the movie industry and everything. But you have to partner. You can't have one scientist. Like, I think that's what Dr. Todd understands. I understand. You understand. So the technology you have, in my opinion, works hand in hand with ours. I never get upset about competition. I think
there is no competition. Actually, there is, just really synergy.
There's humanitarian work and synergy, and what works for one person, you may need another building block. So, like, to prevent HIV, for example, I worked on a project like rheumatoid arthritis. If you give someone a rheumatoid arthritis, they can't get HIV. Dr. Todd knows that. I mean, they usually can't, right? But the truth is, what if it does go into the cell? Because there's always, you can never guarantee. So doing all these building blocks, the water, products I have where I've taken all the lectin and toxins out of the products, making sure that I clean all the seeds and oils, like what you're doing with the oil or with the water, is so important. But if you can do more and more of this, then we will be able to have sustainable food and water. If we don't do the projects that you and I are working on, and other scientists and humanitarians and politicians even and governments are working on, we can't sustain life.
Well, look at what you're doing. I mean, since I've met you, now you're doing you're doing all this work also on fashion.
Yeah.
And so many things are happening.
You know fashion more than I do.
Well, that's a different story, but
we won't get into that story unless you want to.
No, I just signed up. But by the way, I just wrote a preface for a book about fashion.
You told me that. I want to be in. Why am I not involved in that book?
Well, you are. Somehow you are, because everything I do, there is, part of you
Christina.
in it. There's Christina in it. And I really look forward to come to New York. And I know you're doing a big presentation there.
I want you on
is that
stage.
Right?
Yes.
On stage. I don't know about that, but
why not?
I don't know.
You
can tell me.
You can model. We're having men and women.
Oh my God!
model.
I have to go on a diet now. I need more drops. One of those fantastic drops you're giving, to super champions. Now I need some of those.
You need Crush and Sculpt and all that.
Yeah.
We actually that brand the Crush, the peptides, because you can't regenerate without peptides, right? Now, V cells, like what Dr. Todd are doing, I think are significant as well. Like I said, there's different technologies that impact the world. I saw you coughing.
Yeah.
Are you okay?
I'm fantastic. But since I had can I say that? Nobody's going to hear me.
What?
Well, listen. Since I had the operation on my lungs, I had cancer. So, part of the problem is that the lung doesn't understand that it's over. So, he has some scars, and they remove part of it. Yeah. So when it comes down to my neurological system, it still feels there is something wrong. So I cough, but I really don't have anything to cough about. But he doesn't know, so I have to explain it.
You have to explain it.
Yeah.
But I shouldn't even. I don't know if I can ask this. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. Is that because of your career? Do you think that you got cancer? The things you've done?
Well, that's
because you've been all over.
Yeah, I have been all over.
And you've done a lot.
Yeah. A lot of people got in much bigger trouble than I did. I came out of it pretty okay. It was more mechanical than anything else, so it didn't spread anywhere else. It got removed, and I'm fine. But some other people came out of it with cancer in their blood, and so that's another way for God to tell me, you got to do something for all other people that they're not in the good position you are. As you know, I'm also have a degenerative problem with my eyes.
How are they doing, by the way? He told me you may need up to 3 treatments. Did you notice a difference after?
With Dr. Todd, you mean? Yeah. Well, yes, I do feel a little bit better. I have to be honest, but I'm so skeptical. I wanted to wait until I get the results, but I do feel a little bit better.
It takes up to 3 months.
Yes.
You know that, yeah.
Not only that, but also, like you said, it may take more treatments.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting what you said about Todd and about you knowing him already, But the thing was, I was so happy that you reunited and you
I would
rediscover.
never have without the Vatican. I
So-
really wouldn't have without you. And
So it is so important what we're doing and what we're doing at the Vatican, and the fact that it's really in the heart of the Catholic Church, and I pay so much respect to that institution. And although I just met with the Deputy Minister of Islamic Religion of of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, I met with Guru Dev, which is a big religious leader.
Oh,
His
absolutely.
Highness.
I've met him, by the way. Did you know that?
So he's going to be at the event in November.
Yeah, I spoke on a panel with him at the World Economic Forum.
All right.
Yeah, and
all
then
right.
get this. So I'm in LA with Esai, who is the...
He's in Los Angeles now. He's doing an...
I know. I was
okay.
there with Esai, who is the co-star for Mission Impossible.
Okay.
And one of the actresses. And Esai's a friend of mine, and we were supposed to go to a comedy show the night before, but we ended up, we had another business meeting. And then that night, he was meeting with him.
Okay.
And he goes, you probably wouldn't know him, but he's really famous. He's got like 300 million followers. And I go, oh no, I was on a panel with him at the World
Oh, my
Economic
God.
Forum. So that night he was with him. Well, he actually asked us to go to that, but we had another thing that night. But he was with him, and they took pictures and sent it to me. So isn't that interesting that
Yeah.
I was on a panel, you met him, Esai met him. I would like to invite Esai, by the way, to the
Please.
the World Changers, because he
Please.
has a lot of influence and he believes a lot the same way we do. And I think it would be, he was raised Catholic. He's from Puerto Rico. I think he's Catholic. He's a practicing Catholic. But he it was so interesting because you brought his name up. Esai was with him in L.A. and I almost saw him there. He's a great,
And
by
he's
the
part
way,
of the Transcend Project.
well, his kindness, like if you ask me to look at my whole life, individuals I've met, like you can feel his kindness. He's just so gentle
Yeah.
and kind. There's zero arrogance.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. But you
Yeah.
you see that a lot in people that are really making an impact.
Yeah.
And they have an awareness
Yeah.
of what they're doing, and it's
I have a really good friend whose husband's over the foundation for Sadhguru. In fact, she's not going to be there till 8 tonight, but she'll be there. I don't know if Rob's going to be able to come or not because he travels all the time back and forth to L.A. But both of those men are instrumental, in my opinion. Sadhguru has the Save the Soil campaign, but they both have changed so many people's lives as far as what they do. But I think you partnering with who you've partnered with is integral to what you're doing. And I'm going to say this: how hard was that to get approval to do all of that? Because you're bringing in into a Catholic church different religions.
Oh yeah. But I made myself really clear that, and I try to make myself really clear that if we really want to have an impact.
Yeah.
We have to really to be able to respect other people, and it comes down to the fact that by respecting ourselves and by understanding what respect means. This is one thing that I had a meeting in Macedonia where we're going to have, by the way, the first World Changer Summit outside the Vatican walls.
Is that the one in October?
Yeah.
I'm
The
going to
one
be there.
You're going to be there. You are active part in that event, and we're meeting with the Ministry of Health and the Prime Minister, and it's very important because when I had the meeting over there with the Islamic community and with the in the Deputy Minister of Religion of the Islamic Kingdom of Saudi, he was so enlightening. He said to me, it's about respect. It's about we want to share. We want to really understand and make people understand all the goods we can do together. And that was really fantastic. I never thought he was so open, and he knew so much about also science. And when I gave him one of our bracelets and I explained to him, he said, "Oh yeah, it's electromagnetic fields."
He understands. Yeah.
Oh my God, it was a great, was just great to sit with him and
I
talk.
want that technology for cancer.
Yeah, well,
I really do, because I know there's different types of cancers. There's different mechanisms, but I have to tell you, so you haven't heard a lot of the talks I give, but when the pandemic happened, I was working on emergency authorization projects with pharmaceutical companies. So I wasn't really at root. They had my formulas that I developed years before that.
Right.
And then I worked on them a little bit for Clay, but to change some stuff. But during that whole time, I talked about fungus and parasites. And I talked about malaria. I talked about yellow fever. I talked about Lyme's disease. I talked about the different eggs and how they're laid. I try to be careful because it kind of freaks people out, when I'm talking about it, but it's all connected. And so as a scientist working in cancer for so many years and having had cancer and understanding it, I understand how much fungus and parasites are involved in that.
Totally.
And how they trigger the system. So you could be the healthiest person in the world, but you get that into your system and the microbiome,
and they'll work.
They'll start working, and because their goal is you're the host, and they want to take over your body. So the technology to be able to kill that is extremely important. In fact, I really need one of those bracelets right now, because my body, like yours, I've gone through a lot.
Right.
And a lot of that I think is because of travel. I'm going to be very honest with you.
Yeah, well, that's one of the reasons why it's so hard to spread what we're doing, and it's so the tool is so hard, and I'm keep reminding myself, and I really look at you and I go like, oh my gosh, she can do it. You're doing so many things and traveling all the time, and then.
But Gabriel, when you and I are traveling to these countries, you understand with what we eat and what we do, we're exposed to different parasites.
Absolutely.
And then they go into your body, and this is not. I mean, because you can combat different parasites in your environment because your body starts, but you get too many of those along the way. And they take over, right? And they take control. So I believe, just so you know, that your bracelets don't just help with malaria. And I don't have the scientific research to show that, but in my mind, if it's able to do that, I think it can do it with other parasites. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And we as a matter of fact, we're working with some fungus, and we're working with some see the effects. And
have you looked at Lyme's disease?
Yes. Well, now there is a part of the research where you need a lot of money to do research, and you need a lot of.
But I'm getting ready to go into. They're doing a clean room and research for me, and so remember I told you about South Carolina. You're going to meet Dr. Makota tonight and tomorrow. He's the president of one of the universities, and actually his university, and Anita, who you met, right? She's the chairman of the other. There's 2 universities in that state. And South Carolina is set up a little bit differently as far as the money they give and how they handle things. It's a really pivotal state in this country. Good or bad, politically, it makes a lot of can make a lot of changes for us. And I have friends on the Democratic and Republican side. I'm just going to be honest with you. I have very close friends on both sides. But that government has contributed a lot to research. And so they are starting a bioscience center. And Bruce Holstein was going to be here, but he can't come. I really wanted you to meet him. I'll see him next week. And they're building a clean room for me to do research, and they're basically funding it. And then they're giving me offices and a place for 18 months, and we have 22 companies. And people hear ROOT, but they don't know that we have these 22 companies. And so basically we will have blocks where we will be an innovation hub. And so for me, I want to figure out how I can help contribute and do some of this research. So what they're offering as well are their students on the science side to help. Yeah.
Fantastic.
So I just wanted you to know that. So I already brought you up to them. And Karen said, Christina, we've got to get some of this stuff done. I have a deadline in November, just so you know. But my plans are to develop a center so that you can come there as well, and we can conduct research on the different things that we're doing.
I'll be more than happy to join forces. And we did have some experience also with COVID.
I wondered about that. Yeah.
Yeah, with many different pathologies. So I think we can be a great help, and if we have a facility, that's also the reason why I'm bringing together.
Not just facilities, but funding.
Yeah.
Because you need funding.
Yeah.
Because the truth is, and I say this to people all the time, we just filed a I did a patent that has to do with breast cancer.
Okay.
And now we're filing one that I wrote on autism and ADHD. So I have 33. I had to get the data in order to file
Right.
those to get approval. But my patent attorney was the main patent attorney for Moderna, the pharmaceutical company, and we have a really good hit rate at this point. The problem with our U.S. Patent Office is it takes so long.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you know this, it used to
Yeah, I know.
take 2 years. Now it's 7. So but I've noticed mine, and I have no idea why, are starting to get fast tracked. But once you have those patent pendings and you filed, you can get funding, right? And you can do the research, and it takes money. I just want everyone to understand the reason
my
it's
God.
so hard is it takes money
Yeah.
to get the research. So you may have something, and of course, in our country, we can't say we cure something because they will not let us say that. But that's why I say cure the causes, right? Getting to
Right.
the root of the issue, because I can't say I can't say that that's curing it or whatever, but to take that technology and to do research on a lot of different things. Because another thing you may not know about me is that I got pretty well known in the pharmaceutical biotech industry in this country and in some other countries because I would be brought in once I started really understanding bioscience engineering, because that wasn't my background. I was a psychologist. I'm like, why do I have to go? Why am I going over here? And Biogen IDEC was out of MIT and Harvard. So our labs were in MIT and Harvard. And I had to take like nighttime and weekend classes, and I got to tell you, there were 16-year-olds that were smarter than me. Like, I was lost. They would ask me to go have drinks afterwards, and I'm like, no way. You guys are talking about stuff I don't even understand. I'm like, what am I doing here? But once I started understanding, like what I'm understanding about the hip malaria, because you have to start understanding the project, right? What people don't know about research scientists is they may not know that topic, but they research it. I was the one brought in to look at technology. And let's say we launched a molecule, a human monoclonal molecule that's biotechnology for a disease state. I would go in and look at it and do investigator-sponsored trials to try to figure out where else that would work by the mechanism. And then I would do trials with our with NIH or IRBs, right? So IRBs govern your research here. So I am. You have to be someone they accept to do IRB
Absolutely.
research. So I still have current IRB classification. I usually use WIRB. So once I use that, if I want to go and do research like I did a pain study or an interoperative monitoring study at Johns Hopkins, right? I go to Johns Hopkins because I already have IRB approval. Johns Hopkins, it's easier to get approval there, so I can work at those major universities. It wasn't that I worked at Johns Hopkins. I did do adjunct, like teaching for the residents at one point. I went in to do research with them. We would give the funding, right, for the research, because again, you're using some of the top doctors in the world. And I was always trying to figure out, how does this work for this disease state? How can we make this work? And this is so interesting, Gabrielle. Usually in those companies, what we started with, which was what that drug or what it was approved for, we would find another disease state that it worked even better for. So I'll use an example. Zithromax launched, it's antibiotic, right? Pfizer launched that product. It ended up being used for bronchitis and then sinusitis and then other infections, right? But the first initial indication ended up not being the most important that it was used for. And then I'll use another example. Viagra was made for cardiovascular events. Well, then we understood in the research that it actually could cause that, right? So it was launched as one of the most successful drug launches for erectile dysfunction or just for pleasure, right? So the more I've looked at your technology and what you guys have developed, the more I really believe it works in a lot of different areas as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think one of my fields of research is interaction between different scientists.
Yeah.
And sciences. So
like different scientific.
Yeah. So it's more interdisciplinary work. And studying complex adaptive systems. So I completely understand where you're coming from and what you're saying, because sometimes we got something, but if we just can cross the border, and then
Right.
we have a different look into what we have in our hands. We may find that it's working for reasons that we never thought of it. Hit technology, we never thought that we were going to use it for curing some parasites in the vineyard. But now we are, and we discovered that we can use, actually we don't even need the to use our bracelet. We just need to have a web, or a Bluetooth, so we can spread the information and hit directly the parasites through the Wi-Fi. We don't need to spread, and that's
In a vineyard, like for wine?
in vineyards, we can go there with drones, check
Okay.
the vineyard, so we don't have to have actual people going there, which is, sometimes could be very dangerous, and we don't need to spray the vineyard. We need just to informatize the vineyard with Bluetooth, and so
That's so interesting. That
so
absolutely
we
would
save
work.
the planet from having. So that when people are asking me, yeah, but what are you doing for flourishing? I don't like the word sustainability, just because
It's not a
to
great word.
sustain,
Yeah.
to sustain is not a great idea. It's to sustain is to balance. To balance is to stagnate, and to
Yeah.
stagnate is to die. So
It's not to innovate.
Right.
That's a problem with that word.
yeah, it's like when people are saying, "Oh, you are resilient." No, I'm not resilient. Resilience is the property for something that it's for a table to resist stress. I am an adaptive system, so I do get better through stress.
Yeah.
This is part of the evolutionary.
It's true. Yeah.
So
You ramp up your system. You get
Right.
through that stress and you can handle it. Then you can. And I really believe God made it that way, because if you're strong enough to handle an obstacle, which I know you and I have handled a lot of obstacles. Yeah, someday we'll talk about it even more.
Right,
We've
yeah.
handled a lot of obstacles. I think then you're able to capable. He gives you the ability to handle even
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. So
You
so
know?
to go back to the vineyard, the amazing part is, like you were saying, you don't know what your technology really can do until you try it in different fields. And now what we are seeing, we're doing a research on that. What we were seeing, that we don't need to spray the vineyard anymore. So it's so much chemicals saved from being spread out.
Yeah.
And which those chemicals, by the way, will also affect the population around it.
Absolutely.
So
It will affect you or me.
absolutely. So but so it's part of what you're doing as well, by cleaning people, because we spread around so much bad stuff.
Yeah, but I need to talk to you about that, because I also have the patents for getting rid of lectin. So in the seeds and plants to take that out, because that's a toxin.
important.
So I'd love to. I didn't realize that you guys were doing this. And then I have the patents for alcohol metabolism. So there's a lady coming tonight or tomorrow morning, Karen Castle Gray, that the producer for The Hangover and Bridesmaids and Independence Day. Clayton we were both going over to their house for dinner, but I had something else, so Clay went. So he's done 31 movies. I met her at Andre, I never say his name right, Buccicelli. Am I saying it right?
Bocelli.
Bocelli. I'm so sorry. He's so magnificent.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
know
met,
you were at the at the dinner party and
Yeah.
that he did just
we
a few
sat
weeks
by his
ago.
wife. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. So Karen was there. A lot of people were. It was a great one.
Yeah, I had a lot of friends going there.
We
It
were
was
asked to go
beautiful.
next year. I want you to go with us,
Oh, my
because
God. Yeah.
we sat at the very front with his family and with their board. Fascinating, great people, amazing people. What they're doing for philanthropy.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of different causes. But
You know his story, by the way.
yeah, his son
Okay.
was there too. So they were telling it, and there are so many big names there.
yeah.
Gabriel. We went to the concert that was outside. By the way, most beautiful concert I've ever seen. You're in the mountains.
He was discovered, to come on board on a Zucchero. He's an Italian singer. And
He lost his eyesight playing soccer. He was a soccer player,
Yeah.
and he lost it. So fascinating to me. So how did he get discovered? I
he
didn't know
got
that
discovered
story.
by this guy that was looking to help Zucchero to write a song that was called Miserere, and he wanted to have an opera singer, and no opera singer will work with a pop singer. So he went around, and finally he found Bocelli in a little bar playing, his pianola and whatever,
And he
singing.
wasn't famous.
Now he wasn't famous, and he brought it's actually on a couple of books, and I read it on one of the books of this friend of mine, actually this guy that I know, and he told me the story firsthand, where he took the tape from Bocelli and brought it to Pavarotti and asked Pavarotti, he said, Maestro, would you play this song with Zucchero and we have a demo tape? And when Pavarotti heard the demo tape, he said, well, you don't need me. You already got the best voice. So that's how he went back and said,
it's one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard.
And it's got a really wonderful heart too. I think the guy is just
absolutely
amazing.
His wife, I was so impressed.
The whole family.
The whole family. And I have to say this: his board of directors, and I mean this. I mean the amount of famous people, but also very wealthy people and influential people in that event was probably one of the most I've seen throughout my lifetime, because he has a great heart for different causes, and he really knows how to bring people together, and then he really knows how to create an environment where
and it's
everyone
also
can
hard because now, and how much pressure there is. We're pulled, from one direction and the other direction, and there's so many people trying to get to us and to you and to him.
Well,
it's even crazier.
Yeah. Well, I don't know how he manages it, but I have to tell you, if you ask me, did I feel at all like he's just kind? Do you know what I mean? He really. So now I am committed to going to this event. In fact, I even said I think I want to buy something in Italy, because I've gotten so connected because of you to so many of the environments there, and it was a really just a beautiful experience. But I was going to tell you, so the producer for all those shows, Karen Castle Gray, the wife was there, and I connected with her. We were in LA. They invited us, and he has a company that's basically goes in with wine companies and is able to use the technology to really make the wine taste better, right? So I'd love to connect the two of you in that project.
Well, do you remember that we showed you the card for HIT when you oxidized the wine?
I do remember now. Now. I forgot about that.
Right.
We were in.
So
we
we
were
do
there.
have that product to oxidize wine in a few minutes with your, with a
clean slate and clean spirits.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah. I've been criticized a little bit because I did a patent to metabolize alcohol, and I'm not trying to encourage drinking. I'm trying to help people metabolize it. But I was going to say, so we connected because of that. So I'll introduce you to them as well. Karen will be here. She's best friends with them. And not Karen Floyd, Karen Castle Gray.
Right.
And that is what was fascinating to me, is all the business people I was exposed to at that event and what we can all do together. But he has a close connection with the Catholic Church as well.
Yeah. Indeed.
Yeah.
And
he spoke about it while he was talking. I mean, everybody. It was fascinating. I think there were some. I don't know if they're cardinals. There were people from the church that were there as well. Yeah.
Well, it's just there is such a it's so impactful when you work and you work in synergy with no competition.
It takes a lot of work collaborating and partnering, which is what I know we're going to do together, and I know we're going to be able to get the money. So I just want to say this to people: if you ask me on a research project, am I getting paid from a research project? No. The money's going to the research, right?
Yeah.
And what people don't understand is it takes a lot of money to go to really improving life.
But listen, it takes a lot of money, to be honest. I take more than 100 flights a year, and it takes a lot of money just to go around and
you have to pay
people.
For that too. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And all the work we're doing, and I'm not doing it, to get rich. I don't have a car. I don't have a big house. I don't have a house. As a matter of fact, I rent a place, but I'm very happy. I moved when I was about 34. I became a movie star by mistake because I wanted to study and I need to make money. And as we said in the beginning,
I want to see some of his movies.
Oh yeah, and I produce also some movies. I produced Brian De Palma. We won the Venice Film Festival.
Wow.
I produce a lot of work. But what I'm trying to say here is that sometimes it takes so much energy just to be there and to share and to.
It takes so much energy. It takes so much energy, Gabriel, and so much money. We were looking at what we spent. That's why I offered if you ever need points for travel, because we have so many, at what we spent just in flying, right?
Oh my God.
And if you ask me, is it, and you know this, it's a lot of work, right?
It is a lot of work.
A lot of work.
And people don't understand that I am there to facilitate really the people like you and I was so pleased. That's why I remarked that. But I was so pleased that you and Dr. Todd got together, and so many other people. Really, you when we come, and we do it at the center. The Pontifical Academy of Science is really inside the Vatican, and it's really a wonderful place where so much has happened, and I think when our energy is there and we're all there to really do research and to really exchange, and something beautiful happens, something that is
it's
above.
amazing. Well, I got to tell you, every time I'm there, I make a connection or meet someone, and I don't take it for granted. And that's why I brought up like Florence, like Patricia. I just love, I love Patricia.
I love Patricia.
She's amazing. But every one of these aspects that are brought up in your science meetings, especially when we're talking about science or humanitarian work, and I want to end this with us talking about transcend, but I want to talk about transcend. So I meet someone every time that is, in my opinion, influential to the success of humanity from a scientific perspective or a spiritual perspective. And I think that's why the Science Pontification Committee or Academy is so important. And I want to say something else, and I said this earlier to someone. The Vatican has been along for a long time, right? And they are composed. And I've asked people to talk to you about this because you brought me into a very private walkthrough of, am I allowed to talk about where I've been or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nobody's going to hear us. Come on. It's just private. Yeah, well,
We went through one of the private areas where the popes and different people lived and where they stayed and all the different things. And I was able to get a private education because of you and I think Jessica's had it too at another time, Jessica Ward, but I was able to learn that in the European, like if you look at the history, the royal families would send one of the sons to the Vatican. And I never knew that. And I don't know if I told you, I worked at Spring Hill College, which is a Jesuit college, was a graduate assistant and had classes there and then worked there and for about 3 years and loved it. I was very, very close friends with the priest. I don't know if I was supposed to do this, but I even served communion. And they were just my friends, right? And they were some of the smartest individuals I've ever met. So I know some people don't love Jesuits. I love the Jesuits because they're exploring. Are they accepted into the Vatican?
Oh yeah, well it's
they're part of the Catholic Church.
The Vatican is a huge institution.
But they never taught me, Gabrielle, what you taught me. They did teach me that priests used to be married. Like they told me the whole history of the 1600s and the changes. And then I started researching it because I was fascinated. But I never knew until that visit about the royal families. And that's what it was explained to someone. Even if the royal lineage, like it's still there, it may not be the same as it used to be, but the Catholic Church is really carrying that on by the different things they're doing with the awards and the different things you're bringing in.
There is a knighthood of, what people sometimes don't understand is the Vatican is also state on its own, and the Holy Father, it's in the meantime he's responsible for state and for also the spirit and there is so much that has to do also with diplomacy and with trying to really better the world, the life of so many people. It touches so many lives, and there are also some incredible work that has been done around the world by missionaries and
they bring back plants and science from all these countries into the Vatican.
Yes.
That was another thing when you guys were telling me all the species that were in there. But I think it's wonderful how the Vatican Church is really carrying on the legacy of all those families in Europe that maybe you don't see anymore that are the royal lineage, and they're making sure that they connect some of the top what they believe are humanitarians or scientists in the world to carry on this mission. And I think that is pivotal to this world. I really mean that. Like if you took me out of my belief of God, which you can't because I believe in God very strongly, it's inside of He's inside of me. But if you took that out from a scientific perspective, for me, it's essential what the Vatican is doing for the world.
Well, I just published one of my interviews where I say we cannot divide our belief and our faith from science.
No.
It's just one thing, and it's and it's the reason why I connect so strongly with you, and I think all we are able to do is it's not really about me or about you,
No.
but it's about something that is more important, and it's
more important.
Yeah.
And the humanitarian aspect, and I want to say you touched upon something that I love. So I've read the Bible since I was little, and I've read every other religious book, just so you know, every other spiritual book. So I've studied, the Book of Mormons. I've studied Hinduism. I've studied the Muslim religion. I've read all the books. I mean, Buddhist. I don't know. There's a book that I love that's called Loving Christ, Living Buddha, Living Buddhist. My brother gave it to me because he practices it. And I always go back to the Bible. And it's not even the Bible. I go back to the teachings of Jesus because he was a man that taught us things, right? And he sat at the table with the other people of the other religions, and everyone was upset about that, right? He even was friends with the prostitutes, right? And everyone was upset about that. And my whole question always is why? He was doing what he was supposed to do. He's sharing the love, and he's sharing the ability to connect. And that's what you're doing, Gabrielle. You just brought in...
No. But what we started, it really, it's not easy to share. And this is what I love about your work. It's not easy to share. It's not easy sometimes to be in the spotlight all the time and be judged for everything you do. And that's another thing, that I have to give credit to the Holy Father and to His Eminency, the Secretary of State of the Holy See, His Eminency Cardinal Parolin. They're always under pressure all the time, and everything, they do, but everything even we do, we have to be very, very careful because nowadays everybody wants to misinterpret, things that we're doing. They want to take advantage. They want to manipulate because they need headlines. And sometimes we mean good, and we would love to do certain things, but we can't because there is also, we have to protect ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have to protect our friends, and we have to protect what we're doing. And it's just, that's why I go back. And by the way, my book Transcend is coming out in October. It's going to be released in October in Italy. And then I hope it's going to be released also in other places around the globe. But, it goes back to the fact that even when we're talking about artificial intelligence, about science, ethic is so important.
So important. And you have to preserve the ethics that you have, or else. And I'm so glad you said that, because it is hard. And I know I can't even imagine what the Secretary of State and the Pope and actually the cardinals go through, the archbishops, because that level of attention and constantly taking care of people, it's a lot, right? And then, and I know you've gone through this like I have, and then to hear people discredit that or to question you when you're trying to do the right thing, it's extremely hard, right? And they're human. So they are living this earth, and they have a life too, but they're serving the whole time. So if you really look at their lives, they just dedicated everything to this. And I want people to understand there's so many amazing things going on at the Vatican and at the Catholic Church.
Yeah, well, the degree of dedication really is just amazing. Every time, His Eminency finds the time to, well, all of them, all the cardinals, when they meet me and they give me time, every time I'm just amazed, it's just...
Gabrielle, they all know you. You walk in, I was telling someone the other day, it's so interesting to walk in. I don't even know how to describe this to people in the United States. I wish they could see it. When you have a Coliseum that's bigger than any Coliseum you've ever seen, filled with people to see the Pope, and you walk me in, and Jessica, and we're on the front row to actually talk and hold hands with the Pope. I don't even know if people understand. You have people that have waited their entire lives to just be able to get to that Coliseum. How many people?
Well, that tells you, it's St. Peter. You met him in the St. Peter Square, which is very symbolic place because it's the two arms of the religion that is embracing the world. This is what represents the Bernini. Build those columns all around to really show the embrace of the church, and the center of it on the stairs, the Pope meets, some special people, and they all come from all over the world to meet him. And but that also tells a lot about you and Jessica,
Gabrielle, you
because
just walked us in.
no, it
Gabrielle.
tells a lot about you, because it's a honor that we cannot give to everyone. I would love for all the world to be there, but it's simply, it's like your time, and it's so hard sometimes to squeeze in things that we love to do, but it's also, for the Holy Father. Can you imagine how many people, more than 1.2 billion people, and everybody will love to just be there. And
they all want to.
And he tries so hard, and he tries to reach people so hard, but he's also human, and it's so hard for him. And when you met him, he was on a wheelchair, and so it's really a big commitment that he does every week, trying to meet people, but he can only meet so many.
Oh yeah. Well, I thought they just want to see him, right? I mean, everyone wants to see him.
Yeah.
And for me, the whole experience, just I really relate it directly to you, and I know you want me to relate it directly to the church. And of course, I'm very honored, and I don't take anything. I want you to know this for granted ever. I don't take it lightly, and I'm honored and I am humbled by it. But I want to tell you thank you, and I wouldn't be involved in any of this, which I believe is the edge of innovation for science coming out of these committees, and I'm blown away every time I'm in there by the brilliance of these scientists that are there. And I want to thank you for creating this. I'm sure they all know. I see how they treat you. I see how they are with you, Gabrielle.
The most beautiful thing of what you're saying is that we're launching now the World Changes platform. So we're going international, and also it's going to be a network, and you're supporting that. So thank you. Thank you for supporting this incredible, coming together of scientists. So each one of them owes you something. Really.
They don't owe me anything, Gabrielle. Well, hopefully we can make this into life-changing for the people that want to accept it, right? And I say this all the time: spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically, it all pertains together. But the heart of all of this is how energetically, scientifically, that we're working, and that's why the technology would hit malaria, and the quantum ability to use energy to impact all of us is so important. And I do remember now the wine. I didn't realize you guys were able to use drones, through a sound system, but it makes complete sense. Absolutely. Which you should talk to I think Dr. Todd just got accepted as the first and only stem cell treatment that they're using at NASA. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
You'll have to ask him when he gets here.
I will.
He told me on the phone. I had a Zoom with him. He goes, and you can say it's, and I go, that's a huge deal. Right, so if your technology could go in that, and then he and I are talking about.
We talked to the space agency, actually the European Space Agency, though, about the bone structures of the astronauts. Because when they are out there, there is some changes in their bone structure.
Yeah.
And with the heat technology, we can help. We can help on that.
Yeah.
On that front.
I really think that that's a great training area. I've been in projects with the moon and Mars and stuff like that, and I always say I just want to make sure that we're handling the people here on this earth, because the truth is most of us won't live on Mars or the moon. Maybe later, generationally, but right now it's not possible to bring a lot of people. They do have it set up even at Mars, where people could come. I think they were targeting 2050. I'm not sure what they're targeting now. Yeah. But it's fascinating, and with what you're doing, it is changing the world. So the World Changer Summit is a great name. Yeah, and Transcend. You're still doing your Transcend project with Mother Teresa.
Absolutely. We're moving ahead. Transcend is a great platform for all the states and all the agency to come on board, and we're working, as a matter of fact, with a lot of governments and agencies to implement artificial intelligence in an ethical way, and really to build bridges of peace and understanding and respect. And in that area, we will start pretty soon launching also the making of 3D avatars, responsive 3D avatars representing each single culture, and in that respect, it's just amazing, and it's not for making a, how do you say it? Just sensual. My English sometimes gets fantastic.
I always forget that you don't come from the United States.
Yeah,
I forget because you always speak to me in English.
But don't say that I was born in London, because people go, why this guy can't speak in English? But well, the thing is, we're not trying to make a sensationalism. How do you say it?
You're not trying to sensationalize
anything, but the fact that we can, really make technology come together and have those 3D avatars and embodying, the knowledge and the culture of all the nations and all the cultures in the world. To me, it's just amazing what can be done in terms of reaching out and understanding and merging, knowledge. And this is really what we want to do. We want to merge knowledge, and we want to transcend, our human experience. And I think we can only do it if we look into, the other person's eyes and try to, to wear their shoes and really trying to understand where they're coming from and share the experience. And I think this is a great way of doing it. And,
I brought you up. We ended up sponsoring some of the top e-gamers with Zero In, and so they could focus. And it's really been a great project for us. But I brought you up. I was meeting with the e-gamers, which a lot of them are younger. But now this is like a huge sport. In fact, Saudi Arabia, I think they put $3 billion into it, and in October they're going to be in Dubai. You and I probably won't be there because of our schedules.
Right.
I'm invited. You're welcome to come. I don't know we'll be able to go, but because we're sponsoring this group, we get invited to different things like that.
Well, but this is another.
But your project is going to hit those people. You know that.
Yes, but also what I think is great is that we're also looking at the young generations.
That's
and
what
trying
I mean.
To,
yeah.
Those are the key elements, and also Padre Guglielmo, which mixes is the first priest that mixes techno music with sacral music and so there is so much going on, and we really want young people to get involved with science, with knowledge, with innovation, and I think it's just beautiful what is happening, and how we can build bridges between our generation and the younger ones, and see the excitement also in what we're doing, and
it's beautiful.
All the energy, and
it's so much work.
Yeah,
Gabriele.
Yes, it is. But here we are. Sharing and moving forward in the.
I'm looking at both of us from the outside, and I'm saying, okay, this
two crazy guys.
This is two crazy people with a lifetime of work to do now. I mean, which I think we probably both always did. But I want to say thank you so much, and I'm so honored. Like, I can't even express to you how thankful I am that you're here.
Well,
So
it's my honor, and thank you for having me.